You are listening to We Are the Compassionate Revolution. I'm your podcast host, therapist, author, boundaries guide, Molly Moon. If you are a compassionate person and you want to know your worth, set better boundaries, live from your truth, and operate in your fullness, then I am so glad you've joined us. You ready? Let's get started. I have to get it right. It's not going to work otherwise. And if it's not working, it's all my fault. So I'll just try harder and I'll just do more because the whole thing falls apart if I don't hold it together. Whew. Does your heart rate just go up? 'Cause mine too. And this is just a normal day in the life of so many compassionate people before we find our boundaries. And in a way, it's true. 'Cause you know this one if you've ever done it. Or maybe you're in the midst of a relationship or a situation like that right now, where the whole thing will fall apart if you don't hold it together. You're not wrong. We compassionate folks are often navigating dysfunctional relationships, difficult workplaces or friendships or marriages or toxic family systems, relationships that are kept from imploding because of our sheer force of will, because we won't let them fall apart. Man, we're so highly responsible and loyal too. And the problem is the other people involved are so under-responsible and happy to let us carry it. In fact, they may even believe that's our job. So, yeah, the thing functions, but it functions at our cost. Let's take a typical example from a dysfunctional family. Say there's a person in the family who is, quite frankly, behaving like an asshole. We'll call him Pat, and I mean no offense to any Pats out there, okay? So every time the family gets together, Pat causes problems, like says mean things, can't treat people with basic respect, gets drunk, stirs up drama, cracks jokes at everyone else's expense. Pat is having a fine time, but nobody else is. But you are supposed to act like everything is just fine, aren't you? Now, if Pat were to experience the natural consequences of how they're behaving, they probably wouldn't get invited to group get-togethers. At least not without a serious discussion and a commitment on their part to change their behavior or go get help or whatever they need. Because right now, as things are, their behavior is anti-relational. It is causing harm. But here's the twist. In a dysfunctional family, being together is seen as good, and not being together is seen as bad. Overlooking Pat's behavior, that is seen as good. Saying something about Pat's behavior, that is seen as bad. So not inviting Pat to a family event, that would be bad. That would be mean. Talking to Pat openly about the impact their behavior is having on everybody else, maybe setting some boundaries, nope, not going to happen. Because that would make Pat uncomfortable or mad or hurt Pat's feelings, and that's not okay. You would be seen as the bad one if you did that. Because for the dysfunctional family, sweeping things under the rug is how it's done. So, the person who is disruptive keeps getting invited, and surprise, surprise, Pat will continue to behave badly and wreck the whole vibe for everyone else. But Pat won't be made uncomfortable. You will. Again and again and again. Speaking of which, let's talk about you. So what is the expectation placed on you and on any other compassionate people in the family in a moment like this? That's right. Make it work. Be nice. Don't say anything. Swallow the insults, ignore the provocations, smile and pretend like everything's okay. And if you were to say something, what would you hear? Oh, can't you just get along? Don't rock the boat. Why do you have to do that? You know it'll just cause trouble. Just be the better person. Again, In the dysfunctional family system, the bad thing isn't how the other person is acting. The bad thing is you saying something about it. Wild, right? And there's so much pressure to make it work here. Not pressure on the person causing the problem, pressure on you. This is that invisible, back-breaking burden of the compassionate person in a dysfunctional dynamic. And if you've been following me for a while on social media, you've seen me draw that on some of my boundaries cartoons, right? Because it's real. Because without you carrying the load, it can't work. But you are the one who has to pay the cost for making it work. For example, let's say the family event is happening and everyone's, quote, quote, together, yay. You feel sick to your stomach even going because you know how it is. You know how it's going to go. But you show up, you do your job, you play your role, you smile, you make it work. But how do you feel during the event? What is happening in your body? You're being the good one, right? Shouldn't it feel good? But it doesn't, does it? It feels miserable. Because you don't actually get to be at the family event as you. You have to show up as a mask, keeping the people pleased. Everything's great. The whole while your body is tense with anxiety and you're telling your brain, shut up. Don't think what you think. Don't feel what you feel. Just put a smile on it. Pretend like everything's fine. That's our job here, okay? Oh my gosh. And how do you feel leaving the event? Relief. You know, what does your body do when it's finally over? It's like, oh, you can finally breathe again, right? Oh my God, we made it. And then you're wiped out. You're exhausted. You're in need of recovery time because it took everything you had to keep the smile pasted on and pretend. So, wait a minute. Let's take a look at these terms one more time because the quote, quote, good thing happened. The family was together. You didn't create any conflict. You didn't make waves. But if that's so good, why does it feel so bad? And this is the tangle we get stuck in as compassionate people before we know where our true boundaries are. Because we're supposed to be the good ones, right? We're supposed to make it all work in the service of being good. Oof. Let's talk about that word good. Because dysfunctional systems have some really interesting ways of defining good, and it's usually not so good, at least not for you. In the example we're using here, this family decided being together was good, not being together is bad. Overlooking Pat's behavior is good, doing or saying something about it's bad. But hold up, because this right here, this reframing of good and bad was a total game changer for me when it came to my understanding of boundaries. Because here's the truth. What we decide to call good and what we decide to call bad has enormous power. It shapes how our brain perceives things. It shapes how we feel, how we make sense of problems, how we form solutions. It even shapes what we cannot see, even when it's right in front of us. We have to step out of the rigid binary of good and bad and into something more complex and alive and organic. Because yes, being together can be good if people are behaving in ways that are good for humans. Being together is not so good if some people are behaving in ways that hurt other people. And this isn't rocket science, but we can't even see it. When we're stuck in the dysfunctional family system that praises togetherness above all other things and believes that the compassionate people are the ones who have to hold it all together, we can't even see this. A big part of our boundaries work as compassionate people is detangling ourselves from all the bullshit we've been fed about what's good and what's bad. And by the way, if this is true in the micro, it's also true in the macro. Because if this dynamic shows up in our little relationships, our families, friendships, romantic relationships, then of course it shows up in the wider spheres. If you've ever worked in a toxic workplace or organization, you know what I'm talking about here. And this dysfunction is also present in a lot of our bigger systems. Look around at all the broken systems and you see this. There's some messed up stuff that's been going on, but it's been overlooked or even protected. just like how it happens in a dysfunctional family. And it gets even bigger than that because countries can do this. History is full of examples of certain things being labeled, quote, quote, good by rulers because those things benefited the people in power, but it wasn't good for anyone else. And yet everyone was expected to go along with it or face the consequences. You could either A, quietly look away and be glad it's not you this time, or B, be with a group that's getting destroyed, if you're lucky enough to get to pick, that is. Sheesh, our poor ancestors. But we are living right now in a time of massive awakening, and most of us are safe enough. Not only can we see the dysfunction so much more clearly, but many things that were able to be kept hidden before or silenced are now right in front of our eyes. And once you see them, you cannot unsee them. So what do we do with that? It can get a little overwhelming. Probably not great for your nervous system to stay hooked on the news all day, every day, for example. But we also know enough to know that just like in a dysfunctional family, the answer isn't going back to ducking our heads and pretending everything's fine. What we're learning to do in the micro is the same thing we're learning to do in the macro. Take a breath with me here and celebrate this. We're waking up. And it can start in the small spaces. Often that's where it needs to start, but it will spread to the big spaces. We are learning to feel what we feel and think what we think and know what we know. Family systems matriarch Virginia Satir said that so well in her poem, The Five Freedoms. We are stepping into allowing ourselves the freedom to see and hear what is. If you're a compassionate person in a dysfunctional family, what happens when Pat starts behaving hurtfully, right? You're supposed to not hear what they just said. Look the other way. You're supposed to not see what they just did. Pretend it didn't happen. And the exact same thing is expected of you when it's your nation doing it. Just play nice, look the other way, and make it work. But we are waking up. And as we wake up, we start seeing clearly. We are collectively realizing, the actual problem here is not me saying something about the problem. The problem is the fact that this problem exists, and that you think we're all supposed to just go along with it. We're waking up in the micro and in the macro. We're learning to stop co-signing dysfunction. We're learning to stop walking on eggshells. We're learning to start speaking up. Because just like in our personal lives, the dysfunction only works when people agree to pretend. And here's the thing. When it's time to speak, we can speak up from love. This isn't about self-righteousness or matching hate with hate, because that doesn't work anyways. It's about refusing to pretend. Love does not mean weak. Love in these moments is a firmness, a refusal to go along with what's harmful. Love does not smile and nod and say, "It's fine," with a smile on its face when it's not fine. Love doesn't keep the people pleased when the people need to not be pleased. Love tells the truth. And yes, that truth might make some people uncomfortable. They might even think you're bad because they're still operating on those wonky definitions we were all given of good and bad. But what if that's okay? Why is them being uncomfortable the worst thing? We're uncomfortable all the time. We survive it. Go back to that family event we were just talking about. You were miserable. Maybe the more loving thing is to allow the person causing the harm to feel the discomfort. Not to punish them, but simply because that's who the discomfort is supposed to belong to. It's Pat's. It's not supposed to be yours. Because discomfort comes as a messenger. Discomfort invites change. It asks someone to take a closer look and consider something different. But Pat can't receive that message if we're always rushing in to intercept it for them because we think it's our job to make it all work. Maybe love is letting it not work. We have to get comfortable with a new understanding of love, because love doesn't call sweeping harmful behavior under the rug a good thing. And love is strong when strength is needed. It's not loving to co-sign bullshit. Love holds the line. Now, sometimes it's not safe to do that. There are people listening to me right now for whom speaking up would endanger their lives. And if that's you, Duck your head, sweet one. Stay safe. Your safety comes first. But for everyone else, those of us who are safe enough, if you're listening to me and you are safe enough, love is calling you to stop playing the game, to stop living by definitions of good and bad that are total bullshit. And yes, take your own emotional health into account, of course, and you don't need to run out and blow up your life either. You don't need to make some big declaration to everyone and everything like, I'm not taking your bullshit anymore, because that usually backfires anyways. The real change begins here, in the knowing, in the moment you start seeing things differently, in the quiet clarity that begins to rise in the heart, and then it begins to show in actions, in the thoughtful, intentional choices you start making, in boundaries that you realize you need to start setting for yourself. Because whether it's your family or your relationship, your community or your country, the dysfunction only works when people agree to pretend, when people agree to look the other way, when we all agree to play along with the lie that everything's okay. No, that's what fear would have us do. But what would love have us do? So, today, whether you're navigating a hard family dynamic or feeling the weight of a world that's asking you to stay small and stay silent, I want you to remember this. You are allowed to feel what you feel. You are allowed to tell the truth. Often the first person we need to tell the truth to is ourselves. You are allowed to stop playing the role. You are allowed to stop co-signing what harms you. Yes, change starts now. And you don't have to do this alone. By the way, if you want a resource that can really help with this, my team and I just created a little mini course that goes even deeper into this topic, specifically for compassionate people. The Boundaries Breakthrough mini course is here to help you untangle from all those old inherited definitions of what's good and what's bad and begin replacing them with a kind of truth that supports your healing, your self-worth, and your power. Right now it's just $19, so yeah, it's basically offered at our cost, and I hope it helps you. You can find the link in the show notes or head to www.boundaried.com, that's boundaried with a D, if that sounds like something you could use. Because the world doesn't change when compassionate people stay small, stay silent. The world changes when compassionate people wake up. And when they do, that's when the revolution begins. My compassionate friend, I am so glad you're with us. We are the compassionate revolution. We are the change the world needs. And we're becoming it. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or give this podcast a 5-star review. I'd appreciate it so much. And if you'd like to get practical and work with me more closely on boundaries, you can come visit me at boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com for amazing resources. Because this is how we do it. One action at a time. We are moving into our power. And I'm so proud to be in this movement with you.